not okay. Not when our kids are in poverty. I don't think anybody is in education. I don't care. Even if they were the best superhero in the top district in the nation. No, not when the kids don't have stuff. Yeah. It's just a priority. Nice to meet you. Me too. Yeah. She was supposed to be. Sister just retired from teaching.
In the Bay Area.
And the last 2 years she's actually been
Meeting will please come to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first meeting of the new school year. Not the new year, but the new school year. I'm glad to see you all in the audience. I see some administrators here and some people that I know that are here. We also have, we changed a little bit this year. Instead of having a Lodi Tokay, we split a Stockton school with the Lodi school, and tonight at our session we have Lodi High and Ronald McNair High School. And our student representatives, Dominic Hummel, is that correct?
Hummel, yes.
Hummel, thank you. Now, Dominic, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes.
Not the report, but okay. About yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm a senior at Lodi High, obviously, and I play water polo and I swim as well. And taking AP classes for the past couple of years. That's pretty much it, actually.
Okay, thank you. Roman Romero?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a senior at McNair High School. I'm a wrestler. My dad's the wrestling coach in McNair. We've had a lot of success together. I'm a state placer and I'm getting recruited right now. I want to head to the East Coast hopefully for college. I've been taking AP classes and really working on my SAT to get it high enough to get admitted into those schools. So that's me.
Thank you very much. I'm glad, and I'm always glad to see athletes that are leaders and also athletes. You know, we always there's a great correlation with success in life. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Then we'll go with rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have all members of our board present today. We have a report on closed session. Placement of non-public school students. Mr. Neely motion. Mr. Heverly second that the board approve the placement of non-public school students 2015-16 renewal students 1 through 71 and 74, and 2015-16 new students number 72 and 73 by the following vote of 7-0. There's anticipated litigation. Mr. Ralph Womack motion, George Neely second, and the board voted to reject claim 511177 by the following vote of 7-0. Another anticipated litigation. Ralph Womack motion, George Neely second, that the board vote to reject the claim number 512118 by a vote of 7-0. We had some appointments. High school assistant principal at McNair. Daryl Talkin motion, Ron Heverly second, and the board approved Gurkamal Jakpal, a high school assistant principal at McNair High School, following vote of 7-0. We have another appointment. Daryl Talkin motion, George Neely second, and the board approved the appointment of Shantae Shorter as a middle school vice principal, and a Lodi middle, and a Millswood half and half by the following vote of 7-0. That concludes our closed session report. I'm just going to ask, is this Lori Gilbert in the audience?
Yes.
Welcome, Lori. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Sports writer for the Stockton Record. Are you reporting today with for the Record, or just observing?
Just observing.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you,
Okay?
Joe.
Yes. Okay. We have our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Nava, members of the board. Well, we're off and running, new school year. Excitement is in the air. I know that some of you have been out and about at the school sites to wish everybody well. I want to acknowledge our maintenance and ground crews for once again doing an outstanding job getting the facilities ready for children, parents, and staff. And let you know that there was a lot of work done over the summer. Elkhorn has been painted, so if you drive by, you may see a little facelift there. It looks fabulous. There are also renovations at Murata and John Muir. Tokay has a new floor in their gym. Liberty High School has a new eating area for students. They haven't had that before, so there's a lot of work done over the summer to get ready. Also want to let you know some tasks that technology department has been working on. As you know, with our one-to-one device and the computer-based reading support and intervention programs, there's a lot of need for technology out there. Our staffs processed over 7,000 new iPads and Chromebooks to 12 sites. They installed and configured over 900 wireless access points. They set up servers and computing devices to the tune of almost 600 in order to roll out the iRead and the Read 180 reading programs. So folks were working hard to get those in place and ready to go for the start of the school year. You'll be happy to know that Chromebooks were in use already in the classrooms. Teachers and students are very excited about that, and they're already being used in the classroom. We're going to kick off our one-to-one device program on Thursday morning with a virtual hangout, so you may want to tune into that. We have folks from Google and Intel helping us with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. Continuing on with the agenda, we have action items, consent agenda A, routine business. Any board members want to pull any of the items on the consent agenda A? Not? Anybody in the audience would like to pull any items from the agenda? If not, Mr. Neely.
To approve consent agenda A.
Mr. Neely has moved to approve consent agenda E, second by Mr. Heberly. Student vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Tom, are you handling the votes for me on this?
That's easy.
Okay. Let's call for the board vote. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Motion carries 7-0. Consent agenda B. On consent agenda B, student discipline cases will be continued on the next meeting. So it will be continued. Dr. Washington is
We're
correct?
going to try and set up a special meeting, so it'll be continued to whatever the next
At
meeting
the
is.
next meeting, yes, whatever that will be. Okay, thank you. Okay, other action items. Ms. Vedica on the change of Henderson Community Day School.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nava, did you
Yes.
vote to do that?
I'm sorry, I did not vote. This is call for vote.
I think you should probably vote on that, even if you have to do it verbally.
Okay, then may I hear a
Mr. Nava,
motion?
I'll move to continue the student discipline cases.
It's been moved by Mr. Heavily, second by Mr. Neely to continue the student discipline cases to our other next meeting. Call for the, no, students do not vote on student matters, okay? Call for the board vote. Excuse me.
Voice vote.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, thank you, Dr. Washer. Okay, Ms. Vedeka, you got the floor.
Good evening, President Nava and members of the board. Tonight we are requesting that we change Henderson Community Day School from being a community day school to just being Henderson School and Alternative Education. The state used to give separate monies for community day schools. Their funding stream was different, it was a categorical, and that has been dropped. But if you continue to keep the CDS next to the name, then you still have to follow all their rules and regulations. At this point in time, one of the things you can never do is have a minimum day, and we do professional development during minimum days, and they don't have the freedom to ever send the students home early. We will still continue with Henderson, with a philosophy of Henderson, the goals of Henderson, but we just dropped the CDS from the code.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, just one.
Mr. Heberly?
I think you already answered when you said that it's basically staying the same goals and reason why it's there. So it's basically the same student population also?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions or input from the audience? Okay, this is actually an info action item, so it's an action item, info action. Okay, Mr. Laney has moved to approve, second by Mr. Tolkien. Student vote?
Aye.
Okay. Board vote? Don't worry, Todd. These guys are impatient today for some reason. Motion carries 7-0. So the name of Community Day School to Henderson School. Thank you, Ms. Vedeka. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, substitute teacher pay rate. Mr. McKillican.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. We have before you an item tonight to increase this pay for the substitute teachers in our district. We did hold a substitute teacher recruitment fair back on July 16th. We had 53 people show up due to an ad we placed in the paper. There's quite a number of people. Some of those people we found out we were going to add to the system. Some we found out we would not. But it was a good turnout, and we did increase some of the folks who are going to be using as substitutes. We also found some people we're going to use actually in the classroom who are going to go on to intern or otherwise credentials, so it worked out very well. One of the things we're finding though is that substitute pay rates have gone up around the area, and you have, including in your materials this weekend, that backup data shows you what the different districts around the area are paying. So Cabinet discussed this recently and is recommending that we increase the rate that we currently pay our substitute teachers, and that we use a graduated scale, which is what you have before you this evening.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, no.
Yes, Mr. Neely.
I looked through this proposal, in particular I looked through Tracy's proposal, and I guess ours pretty much is very, very similar to theirs, our scale is anyway. Some of the things that they did that I liked was that they required substitutes to take professional development. I think we have an orientation for subs, right? But basically that orientation is mostly about how to use our sub-finder system. It's not about the other things.
I can get you a copy of the booklet that we use that we take folks through, but it's really a brief thing before they go into the classroom, just to make sure they understand the nature of substitute teaching and some of the things that are going to come up, everything from appropriate interactions with students. And there are nuts and bolts things, as you mentioned, about how the pay works, how to fill out a time card, all those kind of things. But it also covers what they're going to, as much as we can, what they're going to be faced with in the classroom.
And that's the key right there, what he just said, as much as we can. And I'm not knocking that. I think that's a great thing that we're doing that. I'm just wondering, should we think about going further? If I was a sub and didn't have any experience, one of the things I would really be looking for is classroom management. That can be really tough for a substitute teacher. Now, I think Tracy requires a professional development day every year where they pay the subs. Stockton, I know my wife is still on their list, and she got a flyer from them saying that they would pay them for a day to go take professional development with them. And I was thinking that may be something that we want to look at. Now, I really believe we need to pass this as soon as possible, so we, new year starting and all that kind of thing, and we need to get this pay scale in effect. But I would like to see us take some of those other elements and maybe include it in and make it more of a plan for how we're going to employ subs. And maybe we can actually get something out of it. I know, Tracy, one of the things they did was that I believe that where it goes from the first 30 to the 30 to 60, they carried over some of the days from the year before. And then once you got to that, then you had to stay that number of days. And the goal is obvious. They're trying to get good subs and keep good subs. And you know, that's something I think that we should take a look at. So I would like to see that come back, and unless anybody's got some, I mean, not the scale, but the whole idea of what we're going to do with subs.
Thank you, Joe. Anything, any other, Mr. Beverly?
Yes, Mr. Neely kind of touched on it. On that graduated scale for the first 30 days, it's 120, and then for 31 to 60 days, it's 130. Now, at the beginning of each school year, does it start to 0?
Well, some of the discussions we had in Canada, right now, I think we can go there. Right now, we wanted to sympathize. The most important thing is to get some sort of an increase, since there hasn't been any for subs since the 90s, and go to a graduated scale to encourage people to stay with us. The more they work with us, the higher rate they get paid. We can certainly talk about some of those things. We're kind of hoping that some of these things might come up in this discussion tonight and find out where all of you were on that, whether you thought some of those things are good. So it's kind of good to hear some of these things and to hear whether some of you are interested in it. Right now, we're simply proposing this, but certainly if some of these things are of interest to you, we want to hear that, and we can bring that back and add that to it, including professional development days. Also, where we might want to put somebody who, if they logged a certain number of days in the previous year, can we start them off, say, at the step 2 for the following year to encourage them to come back to us? There's all kinds of ways we could do that.
Yeah, I too want to move forward with this, but if we can have that discussion and see how those, I guess, finer points could be dovetailed into it, would be great.
Any other questions? Yeah, discussion?
I would just like to say that I'd advocate for anything that would encourage people to stay with us, having been in the classroom and knowing a good substitute is worth their weight in gold, really. So I would encourage us to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Anybody else? I have just a question. I know that we go from the first 30 days now to go into the 31st. Does that have to be consecutive days, or they can have breaks in between?
No,
Okay.
this does not propose it has to be consecutive.
Right.
It's just if they've been working with us consistently over time.
Say you work 15 and then you work 16, and then you go to the next day. Right. I'm glad to see this. This is still below what I'm used to, you know. It's way below, but still we're making progress, and it's very important because we are competing with the smaller districts, and we're the second largest district in San Joaquin County, so we should be doing this. This is a great thing, and hopefully in the future we get more monies, we can increase the pay of substitutes so we can have a whole pool of them and have good ones to stay in the Stockton, in the Lodi Unified. As you know, Stockton is 146 now, and they're getting a 3% raise, I think, in the next future, as I talk to some of the teachers that I see in the workout business. Very good. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, man, this is an action item. Mr. Neely.
To approve.
Move to approve by Mr. Neely, second by Mr. Womack. Call for a student vote.
Aye.
Right. Okay. Board vote. Okay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, board. Okay, professional internship permit and approval, Mr. McCullough.
Yeah, I mentioned the last time when we brought one before, you're probably going to see some of these coming through from time to time because The job market has gotten very difficult, so there are a lot of people who are going to be working on intern permits and these provisional intern permits, so this is just another one of those.
It's got standard procedure, isn't it? Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Heverly, second by Mr. Neely to approve this internship permit. Student vote?
Aye.
Okay. Call for the board vote. We gotta get this computer to speed up a little bit.
Slow electrons.
Dale, can I get this computer to speed up? Yeah, the dark ages. Okay, motion carries 7-0. All right, personnel matters.
We can have Chromebooks.
Listen, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Neely has a question on certificated personnel.
Look on there, I see that we have 3 positions for combo classes. All 3 of them are, of course, new teachers. They're temporary teachers. What I'd like to do, it's still a little bit early and I understand that as things shake out here. I want to stay on top of how many combo classes we have in the district. So as the coming board meetings come around, I would like to hear how many combo classes that we have, and I may have to bring this up for something in our new items now, but I want to know what we're doing to help out our combo class teachers.
We do have some help. Dr. Washer, as you mentioned the last time, we do have hired most of the part-time.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, we have support for 5th, 6th at this point.
5th, 6th.
Because the curriculum is so different,
Right.
especially in math, that it's a completely different curriculum in the 6th grade.
And all 5th, 6th combos are
Yes.
But as we reduce class sizes, we end up with a higher number of combo classes. And so, like I say, I'm interested in how many of our combo classes are taught by brand new teachers that are new to the district, and what we're going to do to help those combo class teachers. Everything else.
You'd probably be
Any
interested,
comments on?
you'd probably be interested in, Mr. Neely, that while this thing was going on in the last couple of days, 3 combination classes went to straight grade levels.
All right,
So,
very
a
good.
little bit of good news. I don't know what the total is, but I know those 3 just changed.
Anytime you
news.
get rid of one, that's
Anytime.
good. Thanks.
Get rid of all of them, that's utopia. Okay, any other comments? Any comments from, yes, Mr. Neely? Okay, Mr. Neely has moved to approve personnel matters, seconded by Mr. Womack. No student vote on this, okay? Board vote, please.
There you go.
Hey, whoa, hey. You did some over there, Dale? My God. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, communications. Now we go to the student representatives. We'll start out with Mr. Hummel, okay, from Lodi High School?
Yes.
Yes, you got the floor, sir.
Hello, President Nava and members of the board. So we've just started our school year, obviously, and as of now, there aren't many plans for the student government or for school activities. But currently, we have some meetings for sports planned. Different sports are like girls water polo has just had a meeting today, and girls volleyball as well. But for upcoming, we have Club Week, which I believe will be the 3rd week this month. And the blood drive will be coming on August 26th. And this next week, we have a welcome week, which is the Spirit Days with a rally at the concluding the week. We have, and then for student government upcoming news, we have freshman elections the week of the 17th this month. And then we haven't selected a day for the homecoming game yet, but sometime this month or in October we'll be having our homecoming game. And as of now, that's all the events we have planned. And
Very good.
Thank you.
I have a question. When is your official fall starting date for sports?
The official fall starting date for sports is typically August 10th for many of the sports.
Yes.
That's when they can begin training, but I believe the dead period does not end until a little bit later than that. I'm not sure on the official day when they can start practicing with a ball or anything like that.
So you have a dead period of about a week after the 10th?
Yes.
I remember that. I can't remember. It's been 10 years ago, so I know that we had a dead week there. We couldn't do anything, but I didn't do nothing. Just dead. Okay. Let's go with Roman.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, President Nava and members of the board. We just started up school yesterday. Prior to that was orientation dates on July 27th and 28th. Freshman orientation was on the 28th, and our link crew put that on. We had all our freshmen come to the gym, and we hyped them up, had some games, music, got them comfortable at the campus, got their books and all their necessities for the first day of school. 10th, 11th, and 12th grader officers were elected last May. Freshman class officers will be elected by the end of August, and student government bonding night will be on August 14th. And bonding night's just a time for us to unite as more of a family, and rather than a class. You know, we have swimming, we sleep over at the cafeteria, and we have our teachers watching over that. Back to school night is Tuesday, August 25th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. There will be a parent meeting from 5:30 to 6 p.m. and you're all welcome to join us. We have college presentations in 2 weeks, and fall sports begin on August 11th for us. First home football game is against Calaveras on September 4th, and the Willie Mack visit is Friday, August 14th.
Very good. Thank you, Roman.
Yeah.
I've read about you two guys in the paper. You're all league players, both of you. You're in water polo nominated, and you're an all-state wrestler in wrestling in there. Do you play football?
No, I don't.
It doesn't matter. You have to play football.
Yeah.
Wrestling is fine. Very good. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, we got communications, comments from the public. I have some cards here, and we'll give 3 minutes. Scott Keithley.
Scott Keithley, 1543 Fawnhaven. I'm a parent of a Tokay freshman daughter who started her second day of school at 7:20 a.m. President Nava, Dr. Washer, members of the board. Recently I sent a letter to the board administration and the board members, and I'd like to read that letter. It was based on a recent meeting. At the board meeting of June 16, 2015, the LPA Facility Master Plan team provided an update on the development of the LUSD Facility Master Plan. A request from the board was for the LPA to provide information regarding K through 5, 6 through 7, 8, and K-8 school models for the next study session. This master plan needs to consider which model would be best for a later start time of our high schools. From a 2011-2012 U.S. Department of Education survey, only 9.7% of U.S. high schools start earlier than 7:30 a.m., with 56.8% of high schools starting at 8 a.m. or later. Our high school's start time of 7:20 a.m. is a remnant of desperate action to accommodate overcrowding at Lodi and Tokay high schools some 20 years ago by staggering start and end times. Now bus, transportation schedules, and after-school sports and activities are used as excuses for the 7:20 high school start time. The LUSD mission statement is to ensure the best education for students to be successful in life. In BOE bylaws, the Board of Education believes that its primary responsibility is to act in the best interest of every student in the district. Our high school students deserve the best. The 7:20 a.m. start time cannot be our best. The LUSD's administrative team is creative and resourceful with programs like Read 180 for non-Title I schools, having a proactive plan to avoid costly K-3 grade span penalties, replacing older buses and vehicles with 90% funding through San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Alternative Transportation Alternative Fuel Grant, and receiving home-to-school state transportation funding at 70% of our expenses versus statewide district average of less than 35%. The motto of the LUSD team is not why it can't be done, but how it can get done. By 2017-2018, this LUSD team can achieve a start time between 8 to 8:30 a.m. for our Lodi Unified High School students. And my motto is no more 7:20 a.m. madness. Lori Gilbert recently, in February 1st of 2015, wrote an article in the Record, and it was titled "Early to Bed, Early to Rise, Early to School." And since then, we've been in correspondence about that, and I have talked to her about eventually doing another presentation here at the board meeting. I'll have, if I have a minute, I have a couple things to give out.
Go ahead, Scott.
This is recently I made up a t-shirt. I'd like to give each one of the students here one of these. And the back side.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I also have one for Dr. Washer and President Nava. Can I come up and deliver those to you?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I'll wear this on the golf course.
Okay.
You know he's only got one
Yeah. But you can see us smiling, Scott.
Board members, thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott, for your report. Susan Heberson.
Good evening, and welcome to the new board. First of all, I want to say that 2 months ago when we were bringing up the compensation package for the superintendent, I asked a specific question which asked what the compensation package was, and the answer was given that what the base salary was, which of course was still almost $250,000. And subsequently then online people were posting that there was a $700 a month car allowance, a $250 a month expenses allowance, and those are all things that belong in a compensation package. And since that was an issue that was voted on, I believe that everybody should have known what that dollar amount was. So I'm not sure why I didn't get a direct answer to my direct question. But you know, when that kind of thing happens, and it's happened here before, it means that it kind of breeds this idea that you can't trust the answers that are given. And if you're going to give an answer, but you're answering a different question that's been asked. So as we look at that, also the other people posted things like it's base salaries more than the Vice President of the United States and Supreme Court justices and onward. I looked that up and they were right. I think that it's really important to recognize that when we've been in California and we've been in crisis in education, and this has nothing to do with the person, we're talking about the position. And this position has had significant raises that weren't part of other raises. And so that's why it has become kind of an out of control thing. And so I don't think that there's a way to go back and say, oh no, you shouldn't get this raise because it's already been given. But there should be a way to, as we move forward in time, put a cap. Because the disparity between that position and the other things that are going on within the district and within the classroom is too great. So my suggestion is that moving forward, that there's a cap on that position until everybody, especially the students, catch up with the materials that they need. I think that that's a really important issue, and when I wrote in my thing, we're not Walmart or Bank of America or Bell, California. So I think we need to be proactive in this and look at some other kind of structural positioning that occurs within the district to keep things in line. For example, some people would have the top teacher salary, and then all salaries would be a percentage above or below that based upon where they were. And then that way you don't have these glaring, you know, it's just so much money that's disproportionate. You wouldn't have that if you changed the structure of how you give raises. Okay, and I know I mentioned it last time, you know, difference between somebody who's making 20,000 getting 10%, 2,000, somebody making 200,000, you know, getting significantly more money, and so that gap increases all of the time. So, and I just think it's something that we should look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
By the way, that has nothing to do with the person in the position. I know a lot of times people think that that's an attack on the person, but it isn't. It's talking about just the position itself. Thank you.
That concludes our public comments. I have comments from employee group representatives.
Good evening, President Nava, board members, and Superintendent Washer. I thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I'm Deborah Ladwig, President of the CSEA Chapter Lodi 77. It is with great joy that I welcome everyone back to another great year here in Lodi Unified. With our new year, we have many things to be thankful for. We're starting this year with a pay raise. The raise has gone a long way to helping our members feel valued and respected here in Lodi Unified. But I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank the hard-working staff of business services, especially the folks in the payroll department who worked long and hard to get our retro checks out by July 15th. I was amazed. I truly could not believe that they were going to be out by July 15th. It was more than we could have hoped for, and we appreciate their dedication. We're also pleased to start this new year with additional positions funded by the new 3-year LCAP. Adding positions to some of the areas most hard hit by layoffs has again helped our members to feel valued and appreciated. Many of those folks have worked for a long time with very little, and now they feel support, and it really has added to their feeling of value. I also want to take a moment to relate a little personal insight from some of our members. Over the summer break, I like to take an opportunity to get out and talk to more of our members. And this year, it was, I don't know how to say that when I got to speak to the members, I could hear in their voices that they had hope. Last year at the same time when I was out speaking with members, there wasn't a lot of hope. There was a lot of despair about their career with Lodi Unified and just their situation with their family and being able to provide. And now they really do feel hopeful, and they're looking forward to a future with Lodi Unified and being able to, work together. Everyone just feels more valued. I realize that not all the predictions are sunshine and roses. We're not going to be living in this world forever, but I do believe that with continued activism on the part of CSEA and all educational advocates, that California can continue its economic recovery and they can fully fund a robust public education program for all students. I thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, for your nice report. Any other comments from employee group representatives? If not, we'll continue. We want some comments from board members. Okay, Mr. Neely will go ahead and start.
Okay. Roman and Dominic, welcome to our board meetings. We look forward to seeing you guys here. A wrestler. My son wrestles. So, man, I tell you, you guys got to be dedicated.
Yeah.
So great to have you guys here. Thank you very much. Love your reports too. I want to talk about Henderson real quick, and I did not talk about this during the name change because it's more than that. I've talked to some students who went to Henderson in 7th and 8th and then didn't get to go there because we stopped the 9th grade. That happened on our watch. And really disappointed. They ended up going to some charter schools. And I think that 9th grade at Henderson, that we need to reconsider that. Because some of the kids that come out of 8th grade just aren't ready yet. And it gives them that year, and they don't come in as a freshman, they come in as a sophomore. So it helps out. So we at least need to take a look at that. And along those lines as well, we need to take a look at doing something similar to Henderson, more in North Stockton. You know, there's room at Modesto Ranch, and that's something maybe that we should look at there. We had some transportation issues last year. I know we tried to solve that with a later start, and hopefully that will help. But that's something that we might want to look at. Dr. Keithley, I'm with you 100%. I totally agree. I'll support that. I said it from the beginning. I will absolutely support a later start time. And I hope that my board colleagues will join me in that. And all it takes is 4 of us to give direction for that to happen. And by God, it'll happen. Right. Okay. I want to talk for a moment, too, about this idea. I've talked about a digital academy in the past, and Dr. Wash and I actually talked about this the other day. And she says, well, we've got it now. We're going, 15 schools with one-on-one. Believe me, that's fantastic. I'm really happy that we're doing that, but that's still not a true digital academy. It's the first step in the direction that we need to go. A digital academy is one where a curriculum is delivered digitally. That's the main source. Kids take those computers home with them. There's internet access at home for them. It's something where we need to get to. We don't need to be buying all these textbooks and then adding computers to them. We need to get the computers and then deliver the textbooks digitally. We need to get those backpacks to be a little bit lighter. So there's a difference between a digital academy and a one-on-one. One-on-one is fantastic. I'm so glad that we're doing it. Let's start taking a look at that next step, though. And I'd like to see it start maybe with one of our grade schools, maybe one of our middle schools, and then an academy within one of our high schools. So, and going along with that, the other thing that we're going to have to start addressing and taking a look at is a digital divide. Digital divide is real, it's out there. We need to find a way to start getting high-speed access, internet access, into some of these homes. And I've been reading on this. Some schools have been really innovative about it. One school took and parked a bus in the neighborhood and hooked the Wi-Fi to the battery on it. Ran the Wi-Fi at night. So there are ways to do it. There's new little Wi-Fi devices that are for backpacks and things like that you can take home and do more than one place. So that's something that we need to think about. We need to start looking at it now because it's here and it's going to haunt us for a long time. And that's all I got.
Okay, any other board members? Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Everly.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Again, welcome. I introduced myself when we came in, but I think it's going to be a great year with you. Thank you for your reports. You did a nice job. And the first thing I thought about when you said you were a wrestler and you were a water polo player, you wrestle on land and you wrestle in the water. So again, welcome and thank you for coming. Dr. Keithley, thank you for your tenacity. It's appreciated. And also, Dr. Washer, I do have a request for information. I just heard that there was a professional development that was the first and second day of school for some of our teachers. And I'm a little concerned about that because, let's face it, when those kids come in and that teacher's there, they've got to start going that first day of school. I'm hoping this isn't correct. I think that that is a truly disservice, not only for the students, but for the teacher. They've got to start off right from square one at the first day of school. So if this is true, I'm just telling my perspective of how I think about staff development on the first, second day of school. I'd like to also know if it happened, and I'd like to know what could possibly be more important than having those teachers in front of those students on the first couple of days of school. And if that staff development is that important, then I think we should just bite the bullet and pay for them to do it after school. We talk about student achievement. Well, you get that when you've got kids and teachers in an environment for success. So if you could, please get that information to me. Mr. Neely, when you were talking about digital education, it reminded me, I was listening to the CEO of Cisco, and he was talking about basically the world of digital. And he was saying, if you are a company and you're not going to be in the digital age, you won't exist. Everything is going in that direction, business-wise and in every aspect of our lives. And there is a huge difference between being able to manipulate a computer and maybe doing spreadsheets and resumes and letters and those kinds of things, to actually understanding what in the world it is doing. And that comes from coding, of how you can really get that deeper understanding. I was talking to a gentleman who had a injection molding of plastics, polymerization company. And he was saying, yes, we need people to do robots, not only to build them, but to maintain them. We need people with computer skills to tell the robots what to do, and that's not just typing. You've got to understand the computer to make it do what you want. So I'm all in favor of us getting deeper into technology for the benefit of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Any other board members? Ms. Castle?
I just want to acknowledge the colossal effort that it takes to open up a school again. I mean, we have thousands of children and 53 schools, and I believe, Dr. Washer, it went off without a hitch except for one little blip, and that wasn't our fault. It was a power outage. And you know, we're all, whatever your job title, that's what we do as a team collectively, is on behalf of the students. So just wanted to recognize that. I mean, it's amazing that year after year we do this. It goes so smoothly, and that's a testimony to so many people and their efforts. And then I just wanted to say this is on something that's near and dear to my heart that started yesterday, and that is that every child, starting yesterday, from grades kindergarten through second grade, is the beneficiary of our I Read program. And I probably won't say this ever again, you'll be happy. I've been such a squeaky wheel about the greatest gift we can give these children is reading intervention, which we are doing for the grades 3 and up. Any child who is not reading at grade level, starting yesterday, today, and the whole school year, and I hope forevermore, is going to be helped with our wonderful Read 180 intervention program. And when you think about it, the gift of being able to read and read very well, there's no finer skill. It means that they have a better shot at life, most assuredly. So it makes me happy, it makes me smile, and thank you for the support that made that all happen. Dr. Keithley, you have our attention, and I think I like your idea Master facilities, we're going to be talking a lot about that. It's a great time to discuss what you're asking for, and I'm another vote with you on that. And I also appreciate the time element that you've given us, because it will be, you know, it's a lot of things to consider. But thank you for coming back time and time again to remind us of that. And then I want to say a very warm welcome to Dominic and Roman. I want to thank you for your leadership. You were both elected, yes? Yeah, so thanks for stepping up and being leaders, and we're so glad to have you here. Dominic, you and my grandkids go way back, and so I watched you swim a lot, because my grandkids are also swimmers, and I know you're an outstanding swimmer and water polo player, most assuredly. And Roman, you are as well, I hear, with wrestling. So I'm just so glad to have you come on board with us. So very sincere welcome to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Mr. Womack.
Thank you, President Nava. I want to welcome everybody in the whole district to another year. And Dominic and Roman, obviously, we'll see you a lot during this year. And as in the past, I think we've all benefited on the board by hearing your input. So as we get through these different issues, I think it's very important that if you have an idea on that or a thought, that you let us know that. So it is very interactive, and so welcome. I'd like to thank to M&O too for a lot of fantastic work they did on the different sites. I mean, just a lot of work. They look really nice. Thanks also to IT. The one-on-one rollout was no small task by any means, so all the people involved in that. And thanks to all the teachers, because I have some on Facebook that I hear, and other ones that I talk with and what have you, and they were very excited about the new year and ready to get going and get these kids going and teach them. So thank you to the teachers as well. School start time. I'm by no means against that, but for me, I'm taking a little more caution approach in that I think when the time comes, we need to discuss it in full and both sides of the story, because there are things that some people could look at as an excuse that might actually be a reason. And we need to know that as a board. So I'm encouraging that we have a study session or do something in more depth so we are totally informed before we would make such a vote. But I'm certainly open to listening to that. And thank you, Dr. Keasley, for, again, your continued reminder of that. And lastly, Bonnie Castle, thank you, because you indeed have, for the last 4 years I know of, insisted on the benefit of Read 180. And for us as a board, we came together and agreed, you know, this is something all children should be exposed to. So kudos to the board for approving that, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other board member? Okay, just I'm last and short. Scott, thank you very much. You know, I've been experiencing for 40 years. I taught in Stockton Unified, and we've tried to change the times many times. And I was all for it, but you mentioned the conflicts. And sometimes those are excuses. After school activities, transportation, you extend the school day to start later. The students, we wanted the students, well, we give them another hour so they can come to school on time. Well, they take that hour plus they're still tardy, and instead of coming at 8, they come at 8:30. So there's a lot of conflicts here, but I think, like Mr. Womack mentioned, we should explore and have some committee, some type of people that are in the expert that about the schools. And you mentioned the percentages, which I got a 9% start you said early. I mean the late start, and then 58% start at 8 o'clock, and then of course this has been the 7:20 for Lodi Unified. And I see Stockton Unified has their teachers there at 7:15. They start at 7:25. I think that's what they are. Still do that, but I think that exploring the possibility of having those starting times are very important. Again, we should always get input from the teachers and the parents and the students. It's very important because that's what we work with, and hopefully that something can be done in the near future. Again, I'm glad to see, I'm going to call a dynamic trio of Ms. Katowski and Ms. Verica and Elodia. Welcome to the meetings again, and for a long stay. My motto is to cut the meetings at 9:30, and I think we're going to be okay today, unless we get stuck with this report, okay? But, other than that, I welcome for everybody back in the school system. Most of them, I have a grandchild that's in the 3rd grade at Manuel Silva, and I saw her Sunday. I said, "Are you anxious to go to school?" And she jumped and jumped and jumped just like a little kangaroo. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm so happy. But anyway, I'm sure that most of the students that are really, they're ready to start. And they were so anxious. I have another grandchildren that was up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, it works psychologically and all that kind of stuff. So very good. Again, hopefully we have a nice new year. Thank you for Deborah for the kind words on the people feeling good about themselves since we're taking care of business. I'm finished with the report. We have one report, or excuse me, Dr. Washer, anything else to add?
No further comments, thank you, Mr. Nova.
Okay. Then we have a report on surplus property advisory committee report. Mr. Hearn.
Thank you, President Nava. We have today a report to present to the board, and hopefully we will get some direction from the board. We have Mr. Warren Sun here today, our Senior Director for Facilities, and I believe the chair of the committee. And they are going to give you their recommendations of what we should do with the Turner property.
Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Since we relocated Turner Academy to Tokay Colony, the board has appointed 7 members advisory committee to look at how we can better utilize Turner property. The committee has done extensive study to look at the district enrollment trend and the priority of the school district educational goals. And tonight I have Mr. Dennis Bennett come as a chair for the report back to you, their study.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. We appreciate your efforts and time that you spend here. I know these long evenings can drag on sometimes. Hopefully this evening will be a short one for you. I'll keep my comments very brief. The Surplus Property Advisory Committee, or the 7-Eleven Advisory Committee, was created by your board to review the district's properties, real properties for potential surplus property. On behalf of all the members of that committee, I wish to thank you for giving us that opportunity. I hope that our efforts will be fruitful in decisions that you'll be making as you go forward. As Mr. Sun already stated, the Turner School was the property we were focused on as the Tokay Colony Elementary closed and the Turner Academy moved there. Then this site became a unused property for educational purposes with no student occupying those facilities. We had the opportunity to not only visit this site, but we had several meetings, reviewed data that Mr. Sun and Ms. Brum brought to us. We thank you for their assistance, and there's very helpful input. But we had several meetings, we reviewed the data, visited the site. We realized that the property is a maintenance issue at the present time and will have an ongoing maintenance cost factor. So we considered the possibility of storage and other purposes, but there are certain costs that you'll be bearing and are bearing as the site now stands. So we come up with 2 recommendations. The first, and I realize, I believe you have a written recommendation or written copy of this recommendation, but the first one being that you declare the site as a surplus property and authorize the staff to take the necessary steps to offer the property to the public agencies for lease. Should you be able to do so, we believe that you can generate revenue and savings to the district. If that is not an accepted recommendation. Our second recommendation would be to have the property appraised to determine the real market value of the property and try to determine what potential revenue might be realized out of a sale. Again, we put some effort into this so that we feel like these recommendations are worthy of your consideration, but we do thank you for your time, and we hope that our recommendations are of value to you as you go forward in the decisions you'll be making. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report. Thank you very much.
If you have any question.
Any questions, board member? Yes, Mr. Everly.
One of the questions I had is that if we deem, I know there's a lot of rules and regulations about surplus property and what you have to do with committees and all that. If we deem this surplus property and we do lease it out, and let's say after it's a 5-year lease, and after 5 years we decide, wow, we could really use that site, can we then reverse the surplus designation and use it as a site? We maintain ownership the whole time. Is that okay?
That is correct.
It's not like it's surplus and it's hands off kind of thing. We own it, we can lease it. Well, I'm fine with the lease, and in no way will I vote to sell the property. My vote. I just see that, you know, you never know what's ahead in the property or in the future, so that property may be of considerable value to us sometime down the road. And it does give us that flexibility, because that's what we did with Turner in the first place, when we spent considerable money updating it and making it a nice facility. Matter of fact, it's so nice that I think we'll probably be able to lease it. So again, I'm fine with the lease. For me, the purchase in no way, or the sale is in no way within my realm of voting for it at all. And I do thank you that, you know, we can always reverse that designation. That's an important thing to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hebron. Thank you, Mr. Sun, for your report. Dennis, thank you for your report very much.
Thank you.
Continuing on with the agenda, we have it's no action.
Well, yes, we would like some sort of guidance to bring a resolution either for the one of the two recommendations, if that's the board's desire.
Okay, you heard Mr. Heberly on his report. Any other board members?
Mr. Chairman, I echo Mr. Heberly. I would be very much in favor of the lease. I do not like the idea of getting rid of property, unless, of course, California goes from 40 million to 30 million people, and then it's maybe a different story.
Yeah, but that property is worth 500 million. Do you think we could sell it?
When it gets to 1 billion, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. George, any comment?
I agree. I'm going to keep it.
Right. I think a consensus, Mr. Hearn, is to do that, just to keep it and lease it. And that way, like Ron said here, in the future, we need to have that back. We can get it back and progress. I know they have a water problem there, but by leasing it, maybe they can correct that problem for us, and then we can benefit by it.
Thank you, President Nava, and we will prepare a resolution and bring it to the board.
Thank you, sir. Okay, board discussion. The board will discuss the idea of including Stockton area schools as location for board education meetings, 2016 meeting calendar that is approved in December. We have I have, when I first came on the board, we used to have the meetings in North Stockton and alternate meetings. Of course, we didn't have the electronics and we didn't have the laptops, and we voted by just the voice vote and that type of thing. And I think that the action that I talked to Dr. Washer would be to have 9 meetings in the area of North Stockton, possibly at one site if board decides to do that, and then alternate the meetings going back to the administration here. We will not have the use of computers or electronic boards because it costs too much money to transport that. But we can have the meetings there, whereby we can go on a voice vote and the same process, same thing that we have here. Any discussion on board? Yes, Bonnie.
Along with Mr. Nava, I'm the other older member of the board. And yes, we used to have the meetings in North Stockton. And then we stopped, and as I recall, the reason that we stopped was because it was a lot of hassle for the staff to set up. And so I wondered if it's still, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I do know that there were issues where we were having people that had to work long hours in order to have it happen. So how does it look for now?
Ms. Castle, members of the board, yes, it is extra cost and work to set up in another location. The larger issue for us would be not being able to use electronic school board. There wouldn't be any streaming. Board members would not be able to teleconference in. There wouldn't be any of those perks that we've come to be used to in a board meeting. We wouldn't be able to have the electronic versions up for the public to see. We go back to hard copies for you to have in front of you, as well as some for the public. So it would be going, when I say back in time a little bit in terms of how we operate as a board to do it in North Stockton. There's nothing to say you have to do 9. If you're interested in having some sort of access, you certainly could identify a couple meetings to have that way. But we would still be very concerned as to not having the electronic school board, the recording system, the microphones. There may be a little concern with the place for closed session. So just some logistic things also to work out. You certainly can. It just has some drawbacks to it that we feel are pretty significant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I've been attending school board meetings for 25, 27 years, and that's true. We did, this district did have meetings at other locations on and off, and it had been done several times. But each time that we did this as a district, it was a lot of expense, it was a lot of time, a lot of energy, and really it did not produce the intended outcome that I think the reason they said let's move it out there someplace else. I just don't think that it just didn't produce much. And so we have the live streaming, like you said, we've got it just seems really unnecessary to me. You know, it's a large geographical district, that's true. But you have other agencies in the county that have their meetings in one location only. And I would prefer to keep the meetings right here in this building. You know, there are, like I said, large geographic area. I mean, we've got Murata, Victor, Lockford, Clements. If you're in Clements, you drive a long ways to get here. And, you know, you just don't get the audience that you may have hoped for. But I think with the live streaming, there are a lot of people that actually view the live streaming. And I think that will actually touch more people than not having it. It's almost like you would close down the meeting, and that's another reason why I'm against it. And you know, the added expense, yeah, sure, some of it's a one-time expense, but there are definitely other areas of one-time expense that would, I think, achieve quite a bit more for our district. So, you know, really, I just don't see the benefit of it, and I prefer to keep the meetings right here at one single location.
Any other board members? Mr. Womack?
Yeah. I've brought this subject up, and I know it's been brought up before too, so for us to look at it for a number of reasons. First of all, I never advocated that we split equal amount. I said an occasional meeting in North Stockton. And I think it's a matter of respect. I think it's also in keeping with LCAP and LCFF about reaching out in the community. I think we have some precedent as far as our commitment going out for the LCAP meetings to these different sites and what have you. Yeah, they are sparsely attended at times, but that's going to be the case anyway. To bring a chance of letting a lot of people in North Stockton realize that they are valued in this district, I think to take it out to them is important in itself. I think some of those people who live around that area will come to the meetings. And also there's technology. I'm glad we had some time, because my first reaction to this was not pretty. I looked at this, and I tend to try to respond versus react anyway. But when I look at these numbers, I just have to question if it's really $64,000 worth of stuff has to be put in order to have a meeting in North Stockton, an occasional meeting. And so my first reaction was kind of like, somebody doesn't want this to happen, and they're trying to intimidate with dollar signs. I mean, that was my reaction, it seems to me like this is pretty inflated numbers. So I think a more reasonable effort might be a lot less money and still accomplish the intent of getting and reaching out to the community. There are technologies right now where you can live stream from your cell phone. There are technologies where you can videotape and put the link up there later for the people. If something's on the agenda that's important enough to them, they're going to show up. If it's not important to them, but they want to know what happened, they can click on the link and see the video the next day. So I just think that there aren't necessarily, there's no analysis in this at all. It's just like, here's the cost. And I think if the analysis broke it down more, this is something that could happen. I won't even go to the rest of the things when I look at this list of costs. And so there will be some cost. So then we ask ourselves, is it worth it to spend money to reach out to the community in North Stockton? I say yes, it is. But if others don't, if this board decides that they all stay here, I'm a good board member, I follow the majority. But I still think there's a great benefit to reaching out to the community and being there. There is an ongoing belief in North Stockton that they're pretty much seen as stepchildren to the district anyway. And I think we could go a long way toward dispelling that by doing this. So I would advocate that we have an occasional meeting there, not necessarily something, and I think we could explore how the electronic part could be done without this kind of an infrastructure investment, like it's a permanent thing or something. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Dr. Washer, I see some figures here, and I want to know how much it costs to have the meeting here with all the electronics and all the people that come here and set it up, as opposed to the cost of having a meeting in the North Stockton area. As I understand it here, and correct me if I'm wrong, a meeting, if you base it on 9 meetings here, and it's $5,475, to me that's about $600 and some odd dollars per meeting in the North Stockton area. And I don't know how much it would cost to have it here, as opposed to those 600 and some odd. Am I correct with that?
Mr. Nava, members of the board, I don't have an exact answer for you. The equipment is already here.
Yes.
The infrastructure is here, so we wouldn't be paying for that. What we pay for here are people resources,
right.
Time.
Yes.
So it would be, there wouldn't be the extra custodial setup, but it would be the personnel costs associated with running the meeting. So that's what it would cost here. I would say it's pretty minimal. But if you look at this bottom part, if you're okay not having not having the electronic pieces to it, or at least not having them the way they are here, the cost isn't all that much. As you said, the 5,400 is for 9 meetings. There's no rule that you have to have half and half.
No.
Half meetings here, half meetings somewhere else. So that part would be up to you. So actually, you know, it would be, how comfortable are you having a meeting perhaps without some of these things or without the way they are at this venue?
Okay, personally, I never felt uncomfortable having a meeting. I know during the crisis, Dr. Washer and I know Ms. Castle, we had these meetings constantly at McNair because we couldn't accommodate the people to attend here. And of course, it was packed because of the crisis that we had, the economic recession and so forth. And those meetings were conducted in North Stockton. The other meetings were conducted at John Muir Elementary School, which has a nice little multi-purpose room there, and we had the meetings there, well attended by North Stockton people. And at times, some of the people in the North Stockton elementary schools were happy to come in when we had the programs at Stockton to perform some type of activity for us, because they can't travel all the way up here. You can't bus them here, and they're there in this community and they come to the meetings. The meetings were well attended, as I remember, and I had no conflict with the electronic stuff, and they carried on the same way as we have been, and we carried business maybe sometimes stronger than we did here at one time.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, I also want to say that the location would also depend on what's happening at the school. We wouldn't want to kick children out of a facility, so we would need to look at where after-school programs are and aren't. We know that Podesta Ranch might be a possibility. I do believe there was one other school that was a possibility as well, so there were a couple choices.
Yes. And like I say, I agree with Ms. Bourne. I think we have been, we have to give, you know, we're dealing with parents. And those parents, they don't come here. They don't want to travel on the freeway and come here, or some don't even have transportation. But they do have transportation to pair up with other groups in the community and attend those meetings. I've talked to some of the people in the Park Lane, Claremont, Sutherland area, where we have all those people that attend those schools there, and it's the community there. And they've mentioned to me, who's on the board? You know, they don't even know who's on the board. It's okay. But that's a little bit of education on their part for the LCAP, or when we want to see those people at meetings at the LCAP, then you know that that's an important thing for them.
President Knott.
Yes, Mr. Fritz.
I was lured to the board because a school board is one of the most grassroots fundamental forms of government. So I'm not really impressed that we will be leaving the technology to hold our meetings, because I believe the technology is more of a distraction than it actually is an attraction to us. I think, how nice would it be, and I realize some of these costs, I'm sure, are legitimate. I believe it's more important that we get a chance to get in our communities. How nice would it be to go to Roman school? I mean, Roman came to Dominic's town to come see a meeting. Now, Dominic can go to Roman's town and go see a meeting over there. That'd be pretty darn nice, I think, that we do this. And not only would our constituents, our students, be able to see us, but we'll also be able to see our campuses and the like. And I'd be amazed at the amount of technology that would be available for us on these campuses. We have video presentations or such. I'm sure our campuses are filled with that. But I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to see this in both ways. So I would strongly encourage this.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Neely.
Okay, I'm going to start this by saying that if my North Stockton colleagues want meetings out there, I'll support you on that. Okay?
Thank you, George.
But I'm not done.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. You always preface that.
I will
put
say.
it right down my back.
I will say I will. But here's some thoughts on this. First of all, Ralph, I disagree with you on Stockton being, I forget what you call it, second-class citizen or something. The vast majority of the technology, money invested in technology in this district for several years has gone out to North Stockton. They have more technology in a lot of those schools, and some of the schools over here in Lodi don't have any, so they've got that. Also, we started, when you were instrumental in starting that program out there in the area for counseling and stuff like that. So that's where we went with that. No way are they second class. I mean, I taught there for 6 years, I know. So, but I understand what you're saying. So I don't think we treat them like that. And if you do, then maybe that's the direction we need to take. That's much more effective than having a board meeting out there. You know, maybe we really need to do something. And that's my question, you know. Is it a symbolic gesture that we're trying to do? Because God knows we've got enough symbolic gestures in education as it is now. We need to actually do some things. This location here, the room that we're in right now, by the way, as far as attendance too, you can look at the agenda and you can know how many people are going to be here. I don't know about these two gentlemen back there yet. I'll figure that out before I leave here.
Former intern.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, so
He doesn't have his glasses.
so the attendance, and I'm not trying to be flippant about this, but this isn't a Field of Dreams thing, you know. Build it and they'll come. That's just, you know. So
I think it's like that.
yeah, well, that's just my opinion. Okay. Also, on the second class, a lot of our Quita schools were out in North Stockton too. So we put that out there as well. The furthest Stockton school from this headquarters is 11 miles, 10.9 miles. You don't have to get on a freeway to do that. That's down West Lane. Claremont is 9 miles. Ben Holt, 8.9 miles. So it's not a long drive. And if you'll notice that any time that we had something on the agenda that affected those schools, we had people here. I mean, half those teachers that were out here during that the pay thing were from North Stockton. So people don't have any problem coming over here.
Teachers.
Well, teachers don't. Also, we've had parents from, we had some from Park Lane, we had some from
Delta Sierra.
Delta Sierra. Where else do we have some from where Harold is the principal? Sutherland. We had that as well. So we have parents that come out here. So it's not, I don't think it's the mileage that stops people from coming to meetings. Let's face it, we're just not a big draw, you know? It's just one of those things. What we do is important to us, but it's not important to a lot of people until it, you know, actually impacts them in some way. So, but the bottom line is, if you guys think it's a good idea, I'll support you on it. Okay, but those are my thoughts on that.
Any other comment?
Yeah, seeing as how it's a discussion, let me ask too. You kind of pointed out that last, the bottom section where it was the $5,400. So what's the $64,000 on the one-time expenses?
Mr. Hepperly, members of the board, that's the setup for if we were to purchase equipment to run a meeting similar to this setup. So that would be a sound system, being able to do the streaming, computers for board members. It would be to replicate the exact same situation. So that's why we provided the other scenario that if you were okay not having all of that, this is what it would be at a much lower cost.
We brought our own computers. Couldn't we log on to electronic school board through that?
We're getting a nod from the expert.
Okay.
And you're going to make it happen, right? No.
I mean, it's not that hard. We do it all the time anyway.
Okay, let's stick to the subject here. Dr. Washer.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
Oh, no, go ahead. After you.
I was going to conclude it, so.
Oh, no. Why wasn't? So, you know, like I said, I don't know how many times this has been tried and done, and the mileage is definitely not the issue. If somebody wants to come to a meeting, they're going to come. It's just like they go to San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors. San Joaquin County is a lot bigger than Lodi Unified. And what actually happened, one of the times that we did this, it caused considerable confusion as to where's the meeting this week. These are not hypothetical things. I lived through them. I was an attendee out there. I traveled to wherever the meeting was. If anybody's thinking that you're gonna, that wherever you have it, whether it's in Clements, or whether it's in North Stockton, or whether it's here, if they're gonna come, they're gonna come. And I just hate to see us repeat the same difficulty of what's happened before. And you know, whether the cost is this amount or whether it's half this amount, I find it very interesting and somewhat troubling that we had other items come before the board and that had a direct influence on student achievement, namely instructional materials. And the excuse for voting no was we have a fiduciary responsibility about spending our money. I look at this and I see it as a total waste of money. And so if we're going to use that excuse then, I'll use it now. Fiduciary responsibility, this is definitely not part of it. Not only am I in favor of leaving the meetings here, I'm in favor of leaving the meetings here very firmly, because I don't want to relive the same mistakes that we made before. I understand everything's different at different times. I get that. And just because you tried it once, you shouldn't try it again. Sure, you could. But like I said, the intended consequences of the intended results were nothing. So anyway, that's part of my last words for the discussion.
Okay, Ms. Castle.
I was part of the opening faculty at Bear Creek High School in 1991. And I will tell you for sure there was a great chasm between North Stockton and Lodi at that time. And I know that it just depends probably on the people, but there is that lingering thought still today in the minds of some. And so I think there's a compromise here. I think it's a gesture of goodwill. I think that instead of having 9 meetings, we could have somewhat fewer. And I do too remember, Mr. Nava, we always had entertainment there. We started out with the kids singing or dancing or something from those North Stockton schools. We had great attendance the first 10 minutes then of the program. Yeah, and it was fun and it was happy, and so, you know, but the only logistical thing that I can remember, and so I would just ask, if we do decide to go this way, that whoever is in charge of finding the site, you have to go there at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night to check on the lighting, because do you remember how dark? It was really dark at John Muir. When we would leave there, especially toward midnight, it was really scary dark. So just kind of check on the lighting, but I believe we need to do this.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? I think we have a little consensus.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, you are not deciding today, so we will take your input and we will relook at some of these things as Mr. Womack has suggested. When you look at the calendar for the next year in December, we can put a few on there for you just as an idea, but of course you can manipulate that calendar in any way you like before you vote on it.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. Going on with the agenda, Board Advisory Committee reports. I'm sorry, you have a comment?
I do, I have a comment.
I'm really glad that Mrs. Council brought this up about Bear Creek opening. It was a time when we were very overcrowded and we did not have a school bond, so we had to build a state-funded school. And I was actually on the committee, and we worked on, you know, the facilities, and I walked in and I said, but what happened here? And they said, oh, we cut that. And, oh, we cut that. And so, you know, we kind of said, oh, bare bones high, because it wasn't like it's funded today where you open a new school and they get new equipment and all of those things. So I just want to say that many of us, because some of my very closest friends worked and still work at Bear Creek, and many of us spent our time and effort taking materials down for them to use and loaning them equipment and stuff. And so there wasn't, you know, oh no, that's North Stockton. It was, let's help our colleagues out, and let's help the students get the best experience that they can. And there were a lot of people that were from the Lodi area that went out. I don't think a lot of people even knew that, but you know, especially in science where you need equipment, Dan Burden was really working on that stuff, and we would take materials down there and bring it back, and he would do that for us and or from us. And I know one time I went to Bear Creek, and when I was department chair, we were building a portable, and they were going to put these stools in at Tokay, and so I went down to Bear Creek and I looked at the stools that they were using, and they were these little plastic stools with bolts sticking up, and the poor kids were in there and they had no back support. And so I called facilities and planning, and I said, oh my gosh, this is just awful. Kids shouldn't be like this. And they were really kind, and they said, you know, we had no idea. And sometimes you just have to do that. But what I'm getting at is that there are a lot of people who really tried to help Bear Creek start out, and it's in a lot better position than it is today. Or you know, they've gotten that grant, and they've really worked at bringing the school up to par. And of course, when they passed the bond, they did get their pool and their theater. So I'm really glad to see that happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Advisory committee reports. Any? If not, then we have future agenda items, board members. Yes, Mr. Neely.
You know, what I would like to see the board have a discussion on is combo classes. Now, not next meeting, because we're not going to have enough data at that time, probably. I don't want to put you guys on an extra burden here, but I'd also like, you know, some ideas that we could talk about on where we stand with the combo classes. Like I said earlier, how many of those are being taught by new teachers or new teachers to the district? Any statistics we can look at on combo classes, and some suggestions, if you have time, on the suggestions of what we might be able to do about it. Now, I'm not trying to, beginning of school, I understand things are really hectic, but this is a time we need to talk about this. I have a feeling they're being taught disproportionately by new teachers who are not even NHTSA qualified yet, and don't even know anything about classroom management. Here we go in there with 2 classes. So I would like us to look at this.
Any other agenda items? If not, meeting adjourned.
Jim? June and Temple, say hi and congratulations. Thank you. Very good. And I was there actually for orientation, oh, really? You're a Paul, right?
Oh, shit. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were Coach Ron?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because you were about this tall. Yeah, so I think where this guy is. I was getting his arm wrestled. It's all right.
Oh, he's struggling.
You know, I live with a board member. Yeah. You're gonna have you guys let me know.
Yes, oh yeah.
Yeah, so you're the student life president?
Yes.
Which one am I not getting?
What's that? No, shut down.
Yeah, so how many actors did you end up with?
Oh, I actually quit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go year round. Yeah, I went year round and I did water polo.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well, you know, swimmers, you know, make the smartest students.
That's true. You know that my nephew-in-law, Chris Humber, you know.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like you're in trouble.
Yeah, he's big time. Wonderful. Yeah. Hey, he actually owns his own restaurant. He went over there to play pro.
What do you wrestle at? What do you wear?
Or debriefing.
Two gorgeous young girls. Liz, you know, play some binos over there. That's something. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I realize it's not a good idea for you guys to draw.
All right, well, welcome aboard.
Birds.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. I'm going to tell you, my son was a
Really? Yes, absolutely. I've actually been working with our swing coach on that.
Yeah.
So he's gotten a quote.
Did he continue college in wrestling?
No,
He did wrestling.
Well, you're right. No, he didn't.
No.
He was
State of the art.
Nice to meet you.
We always get this is actually. I'm talking to. Is he? You're talking about. Gotcha. I'm talking to the wrestling coach.
Yeah. Let me know what you're deciding to go that way. Representative Murray.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. See you, Tim.
Thank you, guys. All right. We'll see you. Look forward to your report. Successful first meeting.
It's a little rough.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
So we go from we'll have practices and games.
Yeah. You know, Mr. Romero.
We hope I think this year because we previously weren't allowed to practice there.
Yeah.
So now we're actually and I think we have a couple days that we're allowed.
Okay. He's
to
been in the
practice.
McNair school, or the Lodi school this year, since McNair started, so about 10
Yeah,
years.
McNair and Bear Creek have good schools. Our, you know, our pool with the L shape where it's horrible.
How many times? All the time.
Yeah, definitely.
You have problems with losing
I don't think we
weight?
actually have to.
No, 182 pounds. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah. Well, we have going into the winter, so I encourage you guys to
No, I'm gonna go watch it. I graduated before you even thought of it. From school, real great wrestling.
From California?
No, Colorado.
Oh, gotcha.
Colorado State College. And we used to wrestle Oklahoma State, you know, and those are big packed programs.
Yeah, so Oklahoma State's
They had a good program. And, you know, individual wrestlers compete with them. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm going to Colorado this spring. They have the Olympic Training Center over there.
Things right up the back. University of Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, they have the Colorado Springs, the Olympic Training Center, all the guys train over there.
Yes.
I'll probably go over there pretty soon.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's nice over there, yeah.
Okay, guys. Nice to see you again. Okay? Very good. And good luck to you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That
Have a good evening.
What?
Thank you.
Hey, Val, you set up a meeting.
Okay.
See you, Todd. Good night, John.
There wasn't that many. It's always great if there's a go. And like somebody said, if it's a topic that you want to hear, you go. Manage to get rights to other places. you go to the DMV, half those people are from North Stockton.
Yeah.
When we open up our new Walmart Supercenter, all the people are going to be from North Stockton.
Having more than board meetings longer than